The world is head over heels in love with one man, and his name is Do. And that could be very important regarding the F1 championship. That GT3 win with teammate Chris Lullum, an over 20-second gap come the end of the race, and a fastest lap of well over several seconds in front of everyone else, has gotten people talking. Even if Verstappen faces an uphill climb mathematically in the F1 championship, momentum in the court of public opinion has swung his way. And that alone could sting Piastri and Norris's title battle. What's Max's main thought right now? Well, I don't think it's the Singapore Grand Prix. I think it's whether or not he will be partaking in the NLS season finale, which coincidentally and conveniently settles itself in between Singapore and Austin. But still, let's not ignore the risk here, because there are many people out there that talk in what ifs, myself included in some of my videos on this very channel. Supposing Verstappen at the green hell, the Nordschleife, injures himself, takes him out of the F1 championship entirely, and not only that, he could derail Red Bull's entire recovery campaign. And that in of itself is only going to endear him to even more motorsporting fans. The fact he is willing to put all of that on the line and then come out the other side absolutely victorious, it just goes to show this guy has balls of steel. Well, I mean, okay, technically carbon fiber and alloy, but you know what I'm trying to say here, all right? And on top of all of that, he won in a Ferrari. So when I look on Ferrari's own official website after the fact, it's just surreal to see on a Ferrari website, especially in the midst of the Formula One team not being so hard, as well as the endurance team suffering a really bad weekend at Fuji. And no, this is no shade aimed towards Lewis Hamilton for any of you about to type that in the comments. The poor guy's dealing with not only a boyhood dream being milked by corporate greed from Ferrari executives, but he's also got Roscoe's uncertain condition to deal with. He means the world to Lewis. And we all have people or pets that really are at the center of our own world, so cut the guy some slack, okay? But the point of this video is that I think this is a continuation or progression of what we discussed in the aftermath of Baku. It's the significance in terms of morale boosting and maybe completely derailing the nice little script that McLaren had for themselves just a couple of months ago in the midst of Horner and Red Bull really floundering and Max questioning whether or not he was even going to stay with them. The ball is in Max's court and McLaren knows this, and many casual Formula One fans are looking at what McLaren are cooking up with Piastri and Norris in a title fight. They're just looking at all of that and going, do I really care? As a McLaren fan, it's really galling to sense that in the wider press, but it still makes me think back to what Wolff said in regards of calling the team a bit corporate, and sadly nodding or shaking my head. He's not wrong. And what Max has manifested is nothing like that at all. In fact, it really does bring up a worthwhile discussion. And it makes me think back to when Zak was mulling over maybe Lando or Oscar trialling out their McLaren hypercar in a couple of years at Le Mans. Okay, Zak, you said it. Why don't you do it? Oscar Piastri may be repping one of your GT cars at a 24 hours of Spa-Francorchamps. That's his Nordschleife. How about Lando maybe trialling a 24 hours of Silverstone, perhaps? Because Brown even entertaining the idea is such a tell about how much Max has destabilized their platform. And that performance in of itself, in that other category, is yet another tell. Him just existing, Max, and being able to do that has gotten under Zak's skin. And I'm pretty sure Christian, in deepest, darkest Oxfordshire, is just going, ha ha ha! Oh, sucks to be you, Zak! Give it a go, Max! And the best part of this is, well, or worst part, depending where you stand it, is that Max has done this as a racer, and Zak Brown is a bit of a racer himself, so he has to grit his teeth and just go, oh yeah, Max, you did real good out there, because he cannot deny, he cannot dismiss what Verstappen did. And then this particular quote I'm about to share with you for your consideration is a third tell, in how much, in that even though Zak Brown is a racer at heart, the corporate ties he has with McLaren are really tying him and the team down. A disruptor. You've got to pay attention to Max. We've got to keep doing what we're doing. We've had a chance to wrap it up in Baku, but let's not talk about Baku. Sorry, Zak, we are going to be talking about Baku. What we want to do is we want our two drivers, and Max, but we'd like to kind of get him out of there, to fight for the championship and just give them equal opportunity, equal equipment, which is what we're doing, and kind of may the best man win. That's what we want to do. We'd like not to play a role if at all possible, but you get into it, Lando had a mechanical, and things can happen, and safety cars, and things of that nature. but I think our goal is to just set Lando and Oscar up to be competing for the championship down to Abu Dhabi, and may the best driver win. Zach, yeah, you're not really making a slick job at hiding all of this, saying you want this to go all the way to Abu Dhabi, right in your owner's backyard, effectively, not that far from Bahrain. Yeah, a grandstand finish, but a managed one. It's not an organic one that goes all the way to Abu Dhabi. Verstappen's Nurburgring win, by contrast, felt organic, hands-off and deeply authentic. That's why motorsport-mad Italian fans applauded him with a bellissimo, effectively. Seriously, the Italian press could not get enough of him doing that, Max Verstappen, in a Ferrari. They are making it very, very clear, yet again, they want him to be part of their journey in the not-too-distant future, and quite frankly, I don't think they even care what class of motorsport it is. Just so long as it has a Ferrari badge on it, and Max is driving that car, they're all for it. And okay, you might be thinking I'm blowing smoke up Max's chimney. I don't need to do that because Max doesn't care what I think or what you think or what anyone else thinks. He's just doing his own thing at this point. And a little stat I found from Reddit user Draconic Player really brought it home to me, the significance of what Max did back to back. But the last F1 driver who won a race outside of the sport with a Grand Prix back to back was another former Ferrari driver, Jackie Ickx, in 1972, over half a century ago. Also a Belgian, and also for the fact that Max is half Belgian. And it's making me think that Zak Brown is probably cursing the word Belgium under his breath, whilst also congratulating Max from the sporting aspect. Okay, you might be thinking I'm getting a little bit heavy-handed on the cinnamon and cynicism right here. Shout out to Slick Rick and Project Dave for that idea. But Zach is right. Max is a disruptor. He has been a disruptor for nigh on a decade, more so even. That's just what he does. That win around the Nürburgrings just made it clearer than ever. Even if Max doesn't win the title, he has done enough to inject some hype and intrigue into this title battle, even if it is partly manufactured. Even though Zach talks of equal opportunity, equal equipment for Norris and Piastri, in fact he repeats that I think 2 or 3 times, it's noble in theory, but in practice, it has come off as disingenuous and artificial, thanks to the brief moments when we've actually seen the driver's true feelings and colours come to the surface, such as Norris's Canada clip and Piastri's radio messages around Monza regarding realising that pit stops fell under the papaya rules umbrella. Seriously, as I have talked about many times over the course of the season, if you temper the drivers too much or you curtail their natural instincts, it is going to come out in other ways. And I think personality matters as well as performance on track, because Verstappen, he continues to be abrasive, blunt, to the point, whereas the personality of the McLaren drivers seems to be curated for simply brand appeal. You feel like some of their character is being lost here, or it's being muddled, or it's being changed in a rather negative way. Because I still remember the days of Lando being the cheeky chappy, but as things have evolved, he's certainly lost many fans' good grace, and with Oscar, I don't know. Oh, don't get me wrong, Oscar's still my boy, but it has been a little bit of a muddly last few weeks or so, hasn't it? And I think fans are really sensing the difference here, because what fans really want when it comes to motorsport, in fact all sports, is authenticity. Authenticity beats polish. And also what McLaren's trying to do here is kind of impossible. Not intervening is still intervening. If your policy is let them race until the bitter end, you create a soft constraint race by race. That means you could be slower in terms of reaction time when one of your drivers needs to be prioritised because you fear upsetting the other one. And as I said in my previous videos, Lando and Oscar now have to be thinking of so many other different drivers by default. They are going to be having to think about each other and what they're up to, as was what kind of tricks could Verstappen pull out of his bag with his now slightly better car, and then supposing if George Russell or Charles Leclerc or even Lewis Hamilton, they're feeling a little bit frisky and they want to get in the fray for a win or a top-end podium spot, they could easily spoil the party for McLaren as well. And I think in that situation, Max would stand to benefit, because McLaren will have to dither just to keep up the optics that they are choosing to keep up. Whereas, Yuki Tsunoda, he's absolutely on board saying, oh no, the team's doing whatever they can to help Max out in terms of him maybe going for the World Championship, because at this point, I think Yuki's job is just to try and get himself settled in the RB21, which he seemingly is trying to do. He's fighting for his life for his own seat next to Max maybe next year. And if he can keep up this trend from Baku, then hey, Red Red Bull could maybe get a nice little bonus of being second place in the Constructors, because they don't have to worry about that. They're not caring about the Constructors. They're thinking about maybe, even if they can't win the title with Max, at least screwing over McLaren after all of the months of years even of Zak digging into Christian. Even with Christian not there, I'm pretty sure Red Bull would like to get their own back against McLaren. And if Max can be actually someone who can figure at Marina Bay, then quite frankly, all bets are off. Even if he doesn't win, if he can split the McLarens, oh baby, it's on. And Brown knows this. We already have Monza as a case study because that track forced McLaren into a value stress test after the slow stop of Lando's, which happened again around Baku. I'm not going to go into that incident any further since it's become well-trodden ground at that point. But still, that race was just yet another example of the bind that McLaren have chosen to put themselves in. They are paralysed by fear and history. And in the midst of all of that, they're trying to promise fairness and equity for both of their drivers. But in said promise, it does limit your agility in responding to situations that are beyond your control. Especially when you've got an absolutely relentless racing juggernaut coming up your jacksie. And somebody who's actually been able to let off some mental steam around one of his favourite tracks in a car type, a GT3 car, that he absolutely adores. Max must be on cloud 9 right now. Sure, loads of people bestowing him adoration that hadn't previously done so is a nice little feature. But again, I don't think Max really cares about that, but it might be a nice little weight off his back that he can go to a track and people aren't screaming, "F you, Max!" No, people aren't doing that anymore. They're going, "Dur, dur, dur, dur." That's a nicer thing to come to, right? Because the world got to see him just doing something that he enjoys, loves, with sincerity. And the impact of this was that this NLS race was streamed on Sky Sports F1, and over 9,000 people watched it when I tuned in. That degree of interest, oh. And also at the same time, it's left many people who wish to undermine him really scrabbling around to find excuses, such as, oh, well, he didn't qualify on pole, he was P3, while he was leading by the end of turn 1. And he managed to actually read the track, and he knows the rulebook of NLS, I think, to a T. And remember, folks, the race isn't won at turn 1. Cool, that rhymes. Nice. Look, I understand that Brown has been saying all season that the Norris-Piastri rivalry is something to manage and enjoy rather than fear, which implies a bias towards them not wanting to get involved. And sometimes they have actually been able to deal with this really well, putting the onus on the driver rather than them. In a way that can also keep the drivers motivated and the garage calm, since, well, you don't need me to tell you that McLaren has historically proven to be a battleground for monumental intra-team bust-ups. It also plays well for the brand identity and McLaren being very down with the kids, because it means may the best man win. Oh, that's a very nice, pure, wholesome message to get behind, and it's very good with the children. You're thinking about the children. But the trade-off for that kind of brand message is that when you go up against a pure racer like Verstappen, it can destabilise that and cause some cracks to form. And McLaren has got a very precarious situation to keep up here in the midst of their continuous expansion in terms of value coming from bankruptcy just 5 years ago. And last year, they were valued supposedly around $2.65 billion, but due to recent transactions that had befallen them, they are now valued over $4 billion. In just 1 year, their value has gone up by $1.5 billion. They have over 50 partners. Zak saying the team is in such good shape that no other team in Formula One history has been able to emulate said success and degree of sponsors and partners. Yeah, that's very nice to say in terms of your balance sheets and with your accountants, but do we fans really care about that? No, not really. We just want you to have enough stickers so you don't look barren like you did in 2018. It's nice to see that you're financially stable, McLaren, but I would rather you just successfully just perform on track and do it genuinely and authentically. And what I've realised, including on my travels around Europe, is that Lando for them has become a commodity. And that's why McLaren chooses to play nice, I think, with him and Oscar. Because he is a talented driver, Lando, but he is very much a brand ambassador. That's unquestionable, especially since he is about to become the longest-serving McLaren driver after he pips David Coulthard's tally of 150 Grand Prix with them. Lando and McLaren, they're like that, so it's in the interest of that team to keep Norris happy. much like how it's important for Red Bull's bottom line to keep Max happier as well. So I'm not being biased here, I am saying that Red Bull are very much hinging on keeping Max sweet and with their team. But you feel like there are some differences in how the teams, the respective ones, are going about that business. One big difference, I think, is that what McLaren is doing is affecting the drivers' choices when they actually go racing. There is a limiter on them, whereas Max, oh, there is no such thing. You dare not. Because playing safe with driver management, yeah, it will protect their valuation and keep their sponsors happy because there's no drama, but it does risk also sacrificing spontaneity on track and actual excitement. That tension between the boardroom and sporting purity, that is the heart of this season's drama, not the supposed title fight that's going to go down to the wire in Abu Dhabi. Sorry, McLaren, I'm just not buying this, that it's this close. You should really just stick to your word and not intervene. And if one of them, be it Lando or Oscar, wraps this up with 2 or 3 races to go, then so be it. It'll only stand to improve their own legacy that they could wrap it up before Abu Dhabi. But oh no, wait, no, their legacy is not really something that is part of your agenda, really. It's all about the team glory. And another difference here is the manner of both teams' charm offensives. For Max, we are seeing him just doing what he loves, realising a dream. We and he probably thought he wouldn't be sampling this until he retired from Formula 1. No, far from it. He's getting to do it right now. And the fact that Helmut Marko has effectively given his blessing for him to doing the 24 hours of Nurburgring next year, oh, he's just the cat who got the cream. We're seeing a driver who's getting to express this level of freedom, and he is reveling in it. The only restriction on him right now, seemingly, is to do with a calendar. And hopefully, this might be the opening of the floodgates and maybe other F1 drivers dipping their toes into other racing series, such as maybe seeing more examples of Hülkenberg after he won Le Mans with Porsche a decade ago, or Kevin Magnussen's 2021 IMSA campaign with Chip Ganassi. That's catharsis for any racing driver. As for Lando and Oscar, I don't really see them getting that kind of catharsis, because sure, Zak talks about Le Mans maybe in the future, but actions speak louder than words, Zak, because as of now, there is no meaningful outlet. Norris and Piastri, sure, are in the middle of a title fight, and whoever wins it gets their first ever championship, and that in of itself is quite a compelling narrative. But it's being muddied for the fact that neither driver can actually take their gloves off fully, without fear of reprisal from the management. I still remember Andrea Stella's quote of, "If you do not follow our policies and our principles, you do not belong with our team." That, right now, with the team being so dominant, or at least seemingly up until now, has gotten both drivers in a chokehold. The team is so paralysed with fear about upsetting their own drivers and their sponsors, and it wobbling maybe their bottom line, that it just means that other things are coming to the fore. And I'm quite certain that both Lando and Oscar behind the scenes are getting sick and tired of the goalposts being changed and them on guardrails that they can't fully just go hell for leather, really trying something out, just relying on their instincts like they were told to do right when they started going karting. No, they can't do that anymore because they have so many people to answer to. All because of papaya rules. So again, McLaren, with them not wanting to get involved, they are getting involved because we are seeing results being manipulated or affected simply because the drivers have to think about something else. I just think McLaren has lost the room. Because I feel like what they're trying to do in trying to spark up excitement, McLaren, by taking this all the way to the final race, the natural interest, no, it's gone. At the heart of all of this, it's all about team glory, not driver glory or their own individual freedoms. What McLaren wants to do is emulate what they were able to do in the Senna days in the early 90s and get back-to-back Constructors titles, which they will do at Singapore. Good for you, McLaren. Well done. Well jolly D. You can be Chick Hicks at the end of the first Cars movie. You get your trophy, but everyone else is watching Max Verstappen doing what he's doing. Because yeah, I do appreciate a Constructors trophy, but many fans really care about the driver's one. Oh no, it's Zak's private jet. He's found me! He's found me! But seriously, this is not the McLaren I once admired. I admired the McLaren which banded together and remained pragmatic and steady as they rebuilt. Kind of like how I see Williams and Sauber at the moment, what they're doing. Red Bull, by contrast, they're letting Verstappen ride free, and his Nürburgring triumph swept up the motorsport world. So you could easily argue that Brown and Stella's grand master plan, it has been muddled somewhat, to say the least. And we've still got many races to go, so it could get even more muddled. It's no longer, this championship, a foregone conclusion. McLaren are in real danger of all of this being undermined, and it really doesn't matter if Verstappen fails to win the world title. Him just doing what he's doing is enough to cause a lot of friction to be going down around Woking. the perception will be, sure, McLaren, you won the Constructors, but you failed to actually allow your drivers to experience the natural urges of being a racing driver. And I think this will continue to really limit the ceiling of both drivers on the Sundays, with them having to think of so much. Max is only thinking of one thing: win the race. That's all. He's going on a race-by-race basis, and he's thriving. But okay, the counter-argument is still quite valid, though. I get it. McLaren don't want a Hamilton-Rosberg-style detonation that burns the house down for a third time. Yes, tempering that does look good for McLaren on the surface level, in keeping both drivers somewhat happy and buying themselves into a long season, and across into the reset next year. But I think that whole thing's been devalued by Max Verstappen re-energizing himself. This phase is doing a lot of damage to McLaren's fundamentals. Because simply put, people who enjoy motorsport are really digging what Max is doing right now, transcending different categories and showing no problems in stepping themselves into it. In fact, no, they dominate there too. So it's just making you think, if there is somebody who doesn't hail from Spain and is called Fernando that could maybe try for the Triple Crown, it's Max Verstappen, no doubt. So what McLaren should do is just simplify or get rid of papaya rules. Just keep it to one rule, don't crash into each other, and then you're grand. But then we keep hearing Brown and Stella saying, oh no, they're not changing anything. They're going to keep things the way they are. They're staying the course. That it still works, and both drivers are happy. And okay, I'll believe it when I see it, but right now, I'm not believing it. I feel like Max is going to make the most of this. Lauren Mekies is very much going to allow Verstappen to flex his own muscles and let off some steam, and Yuki Tsunoda will be right there in the second car, just enjoying every single moment. Whether or not he's there next year, that's for another video. But I really do think if McLaren just can get rid of that rule set, it would make what they are about to do, both winning the Constructors and the Drivers' title, look that little bit more genuine, or at least look a little less disingenuous. That'd be great. Got to do something, or else Verstappen will do something for you. Because what I'm seeing from you, McLaren, is that you just want total control over everything, whilst Verstappen has total freedom. And that freedom may be the thing that decides the championship, even if he doesn't go on to win it. Like how you have the freedom to click on this video, which I think you will like a lot. So I'll go and get myself changed and meet you over there.